Claire Bennett had always moved through life with quiet discipline. She kept her small apartment tidy, met her deadlines, and never caused trouble for anyone. At 34, she knew exactly how to keep her days calm. Even if that calmness often came with a hint of loneliness she never talked about. She focused on work, family, and helping her sister whenever she could. It was enough, or at least she told herself it was. That Friday afternoon, she picked up her nephew Oliver from school. He usually ran toward her with a big smile, but today he walked slowly, backpack dragging on one shoulder. The moment he climbed into her car, Claire noticed something was wrong. His usual bright energy had been replaced with a quiet heaviness. She didn't push. Oliver was the kind of child who opened up only when he felt safe. They drove through Portland's cool October streets, past the yellow leaves falling across the road. Claire kept glancing at him from the corner of her eye, waiting for him to speak. When they reached a red light, Oliver finally whispered, "Aunt Claire, I have a wish." The words were so soft she almost missed them. Claire turned toward him gently. "What kind of wish, sweetheart?" He looked down at his hands, twisting the straps of his backpack nervously. "It's about Mom." Claire's heart tightened. Emily, her younger sister, had been struggling since the divorce 2 years ago. Work stress, single parenting, financial pressure, it all weighed on her. Claire tried to help, but there were limits to what she could fix from the outside. She spent evenings with Emily, checked in daily, and took Oliver whenever she could. Still, she always felt like she was one step behind her sister's pain. Oliver's voice brought her back. "Mom doesn't smile anymore. Not like before." Claire kept her tone steady. "She's been tired. She loves you so much, Allie. She's just trying to stay strong." "I know," he said, wiping his nose on his sleeve. "But I want her to be happy again. Really happy." He hesitated, then added, "I want you to help her smile." For a moment, Claire couldn't speak. Oliver wasn't asking for a toy or a day at the park. He was asking for something deeper, something fragile. Something that reached into the heart of their whole family. She knelt beside him, brushing his hair from his forehead. "I will try," she said quietly. "I promise." Oliver wrapped his arms around her neck and held on tightly, as though he had been carrying that wish inside him for weeks. Claire hugged him back, feeling the weight of what he had asked settle onto her shoulders, but in a strange way. It also brought a sense of purpose. She wanted Emily to smile again, too. She missed the bright, funny sister she once knew. They reached Claire's apartment, where Oliver played with his favorite set of building blocks while Claire made hot chocolate. As she stirred the warm drink, she felt his wish lingering in the air between them. Oliver wanted healing. Oliver wanted warmth. Oliver wanted the family to feel whole again. Later that night, Claire tucked him onto the couch with a blanket and watched him fall asleep in minutes. His face, peaceful and still, reminded her how deeply children understood emotions adults tried to hide. She sat beside him, thinking about everything her family had gone through. She wanted to help. She always had, but something about tonight felt different. Oliver had placed his trust in her in a way she hadn't expected, and she realized she did not want to disappoint him. As she turned off the living room lamp, her phone buzzed. Emily had sent a simple message. "Thank you for taking him tonight. I needed a break." Claire smiled sadly. Emily didn't need just a break. She needed light. She needed hope. She needed joy again. And maybe, just maybe, Claire could help her find it. What Claire didn't know yet was that helping Emily would also pull someone back into her own life, someone she once cared for more than she ever allowed herself to admit. But that part of the story had not revealed itself yet. Tonight was only about a wish whispered in the backseat of a car. A wish that would change everything. Claire arrived at her sister Emily's small house on a cool Thursday evening, expecting a quiet dinner. She brought a homemade casserole, hoping it would take some pressure off Emily, who had been juggling work and parenting alone for too long. Claire knocked, listening to the familiar sounds inside, liver laughing, dishes clinking, and her sister's soft voice. Everything felt normal until the door opened. Standing behind Emily was a man Claire had tried not to think about for almost 2 years, Daniel Carter. Claire froze for a moment. She hadn't seen him since the difficult months after Emily's divorce, when Daniel had stepped in to help the family as a steady friend. Back then, Claire had felt something growing between them, something she quickly buried when life became too complicated. She never said a word, not wanting to interfere with her sister's fragile situation. But now Daniel was here again, standing in the kitchen doorway with the same calm smile she remembered. "Claire," he said, stepping forward, "it's really good to see you." She forced her breath to steady. "You too." Emily smiled between them, completely unaware of the quiet shock running through Claire. "Daniel is helping me fix the sink. It started leaking again." "Course," Claire said, though her voice came out softer than intended. Dinner moved fast, filled with conversation and warmth. Oliver told stories from school. Emily laughed in a way Claire hadn't heard in months, and Daniel added just the right jokes to keep everyone smiling. Claire watched him, trying not to stare too long. He had changed his hair a little shorter, eyes a little more thoughtful, movements a bit slower, as though life had settled heavily on him, too. When dinner ended, Emily stayed behind to handle dishes, and Oliver ran off to build something with his blocks. Claire quietly stepped outside onto the porch to breathe in the cool air. She needed a moment to regroup. She hadn't expected old feelings to return so quickly. It felt unfair, like the past had walked up to her doorstep without warning. The porch light flickered as Daniel joined her. He kept a respectful distance, but stood close enough that she felt the warmth of his presence. "I didn't mean to surprise you," he said gently. "Emily didn't tell me you were coming tonight." "She didn't tell me you'd be here either," Claire replied. He smiled slightly. "Guess we both walked into a moment we weren't prepared for." A breeze rustled through the trees. Claire folded her arms, half to warm herself and half to shield the emotions pushing to the surface. "How have you been?" Daniel asked softly. "Busy," she said. "Work, helping Emily, trying to keep things moving." "You always were the one taking care of everyone," he said. His voice wasn't teasing. It was honest, almost tender. Claire looked away, not wanting him to see how much those words hit her. She never wanted recognition, but knowing he noticed, it felt unexpectedly comforting. Daniel continued, "Emily told me how much you've been helping. She said she wouldn't have made it through some days without you." Claire swallowed. "She's my sister." "I know," he said, "but it doesn't make what you're doing any less meaningful." A soft silence fell over them, one that wasn't awkward, just full of things neither dared to say. Before Claire could respond, Emily's voice called from inside, asking Daniel to check something in the kitchen. He hesitated for a moment, as though he didn't want to leave the conversation unfinished, but then he nodded and stepped inside. Claire stayed on the porch, staring at the quiet street. She felt her heartbeat settle slowly, but the warmth Daniel left behind lingered in her chest. It wasn't loud or dramatic, just a gentle shift, a reminder of a connection she once tucked away. After a while, Emily joined her outside, drying her hands on a towel. "It's nice having him around," Emily said casually. "He's been a good friend." Claire nodded, carefully keeping her expression calm. "He's always been kind." Emily didn't notice anything unusual and simply leaned against the railing, looking at the stars. Claire stood beside her, wondering what this unexpected reunion meant. She wasn't sure yet, but she knew something had changed the moment she saw Daniel standing in that doorway. When Claire left that night, Daniel walked her to the car. He didn't say much, just a simple good night, Claire spoken with a tone that carried more than words. And as she drove away, Claire realized she was no longer thinking only about Oliver's wish. She was thinking about her own. After that evening, Claire found herself visiting Emily's house more often. At first, it was just to help with Oliver and small household tasks, but gradually it became a routine she looked forward to. Daniel was almost always there, quietly offering support, and Claire couldn't deny the gentle pull she felt toward him. There was something about the way he listened, not just heard, that made everyone around him feel safe. Oliver adored him. Emily relaxed when he was near, and Claire felt a warmth she hadn't expected. One Sunday afternoon, Claire arrived to find Oliver building a castle with blocks and Daniel kneeling beside him, patiently explaining how each piece fit. Emily was in the kitchen preparing snacks, and for the first time in months, the house felt light. Claire smiled, feeling a rare ease settle over her. She joined in, helping Oliver place the final pieces on the castle. Daniel glanced at her and gave a small nod, a quiet acknowledgement that spoke volumes. The simple teamwork, laughter, and warmth reminded Claire why she had promised to help make her sister smile again. As the days passed, these visits became more than just family duty. Claire began to notice Daniel in moments that caught her by surprise. The way he tilted his head when he listened, the soft laughter he shared with Emily and Oliver, the subtle kindness he showed when no one was looking. She couldn't deny that her feelings were resurfacing slowly but unmistakably. Each time she caught herself smiling at him, she reminded herself this was about family, about helping Emily and Oliver. But her heart had its own quiet agenda. One Friday night, after Oliver was tucked into bed with his favorite storybook, Claire and Daniel ended up alone in the living room. The room was dim, lit by the soft glow of a single lamp. The house was quiet, the kind of quiet that invites honest conversation. Daniel leaned back on the sofa, a gentle smile on his face. Claire sat nearby, her hands folded on her lap. For a long moment, neither spoke. Then he said softly, "You've been carrying so much, Claire. I can see it, even if no one else does." She looked down, unsure how to respond. She had spent years keeping her emotions in check, always careful to put others first. Yet here he was, acknowledging her without judgment. "I'm just trying to help," she said quietly. "It's what I've always done." Daniel's eyes softened. "I know. And that's why it matters so much that you remember to take care of yourself too. You've been the anchor for everyone, but who anchors you?" Claire felt her throat tighten. No one had asked that before, not seriously. She opened her mouth to answer, but the words caught in her chest. Instead, she allowed herself to simply listen to him. His presence was comforting, like a gentle reassurance she had been missing. They talked late into the evening, sharing small stories, hopes, and unspoken fears. It was slow, careful, and entirely unforced. Daniel never pressured her, and that respect made her heart trust him more. When she finally stood to leave, she felt lighter, as if a small but powerful weight had been lifted. The next morning, Claire received a text from Oliver. "Aunt Claire, I had a bad dream. Can you come?" She hurried over, finding him curled up on the couch, looking small and fragile in the early light. She held him close, and he whispered, "I still want my wish to come true. I want Mom to smile again, and I think you and Daniel make her smile too." His words hit her like a gentle wave, washing over her with clarity. Oliver's wish wasn't just about Emily. It was about the family as a whole, about joy, hope, and connection. And slowly, Claire realized that Daniel's presence wasn't just helping Emily, was helping her too. Every kind word, every shared laugh, every quiet look between them was a piece of the healing she hadn't realized she needed. Days turned into weeks, and the small moments multiplied. Claire and Daniel shared subtle glances across the dinner table, exchanged quiet smiles while helping Oliver with homework, and lingered in conversation just long enough to feel the growing closeness. It wasn't sudden or dramatic, but it was undeniable. The wish Oliver had spoken, the wish for happiness, for smiles, was no longer just a child's hope. It had become a force pulling them all together. One evening, as the sun set and painted the sky in soft oranges and pinks, Claire found herself alone with Daniel once again. The quiet was different this time. It felt charged with anticipation and understanding. He looked at her and said simply, "I'm glad Oliver asked you to help Emily, because it brought you back into my life too." Her heart skipped. This wasn't a confession. It was gentle, honest, and full of possibility. Claire realized that the wish she had promised to fulfill was growing stronger, stretching beyond Oliver's simple hope into something bigger, something that could touch every heart in the family. And for the first time in a long while, Claire allowed herself to imagine what yes could truly mean. Days turned into weeks, and Claire felt a quiet pull of change in her life. Each visit to Emily's house, each shared laugh with Oliver, and each thoughtful glance from Daniel seemed to weave a new thread into the family's story. Oliver's simple wish to see his mother smile again had grown into something bigger. It wasn't just about his happiness anymore. It was about hope, connection, and the possibility of love returning quietly but strongly to all of them. One snowy evening, Emily insisted Claire stay for hot chocolate, a rare treat she had begun offering to break the tension of long work days. Oliver was asleep upstairs, dreaming peacefully. Daniel had stayed behind as well, helping with a small repair in the living room. When they finally found themselves alone, the house was silent except for the soft hum of the heater. Claire and Daniel moved to the porch, needing a breath of fresh air and space to speak. The snow had started to fall gently, covering the quiet street with a soft white blanket. Daniel stood beside her, close but careful to respect her space. He didn't rush. He simply watched the snow, waiting for Claire to notice the words he wanted to speak. Finally, he turned to her, his eyes calm and sincere. "Claire, I don't want to pressure you," he said. "I just want you to know that I care. I always have." Her chest tightened at the honesty in his voice. It was gentle, not demanding. It was the kind of truth that invited trust, not fear. Claire looked into his eyes, seeing a depth of kindness that reminded her of all the moments she had admired quietly from afar. She had kept her feelings tucked away, telling herself that timing was wrong and that Emily needed him more. But now, standing there with snowflakes melting on her shoulders, she realized the truth. This was no longer just about helping Emily, it was also about embracing what she had wanted for herself all along. Daniel's voice softened. "You don't have to decide tonight. But I'm here. If you want me to be," Claire swallowed, feeling warmth spread through her chest. She thought of Oliver, of his hopeful eyes and whispered wish. She thought of Emily, smiling for the first time in months. She thought of herself standing here with someone who had always respected her, cared for her, and silently encouraged her to hope again. Saying yes didn't have to be rushed, and it didn't have to be dramatic. It could simply be the beginning of something real, tender, and patient. The snow fell thicker now, dusting the streetlights with a quiet glow. Claire took a deep breath, her hand brushing the railing, feeling the cold and the warmth at the same time. "I think I'm ready to say yes," she whispered, almost to herself, almost to the snow. Almost to the possibility of everything changing. Daniel's face softened, a quiet relief passing through his expression. He didn't move too quickly. He reached out gently, taking her hand with a careful, respectful touch. There was no rush, no demand, just warmth, presence, and understanding. The simple connection between them said more than words ever could. It was safe, gentle, and full of promise. At that moment, Claire understood something important. Oliver's wish had been the spark, but it had led her to this realizing that love could exist quietly, steadily, and without chaos. It could be patient, caring, and filled with respect. Daniel wasn't just a part of Emily's healing. He had become a part of hers too. In ways she hadn't admitted until now. The snow continued to fall softly around them, a calm world blanketing the night. Claire and Daniel stayed on the porch for a while longer, simply standing side by side, feeling the shared warmth of possibility. Claire thought of the future, not the distant, uncertain future, but the small, simple moments that could come next. Laughter with Oliver, quiet talks with Daniel, and smiles shared with Emily. For the first time in a long time, hope didn't feel fragile. It felt tangible when they finally went inside. The house was warm and quiet. Claire felt a sense of peace she hadn't known she needed. She had said yes not in a rush, not with pressure, not with expectation, but with the awareness that some beginnings were meant to be gentle, patient, and real. Oliver's wish had guided her. Emily's happiness had inspired her. And Daniel's presence had reminded her how it felt to trust again. That night, Claire fell asleep thinking of the snow outside, of the warmth inside, and of the future she could now imagine with quiet confidence. A child's simple wish had opened a door she hadn't realized was waiting. And sometimes, she knew, all it took was one heartfelt yes to start a journey filled with hope, love, and healing. The story didn't end with fireworks or dramatic confessions. It ended with a moment of quiet understanding, a soft smile, and the beginning of a life where family, trust, and gentle love could grow together step by careful step.